Hey y'all. So I guess you could say this is like, a part two to the video that I made yesterday. But anyway, this is where I found him a couple years ago and everything, how I found that address. So the last part I left off was a few years went by, and in 2023 me and my husband found this program online, and I can't remember the name of it. I just remember you had to pay for it, but you could type in anybody's name and things would pop up and all. And so I did that for my son's dad, and that's when I got the address that he was in Florida. And so wrote down the addresses, all that, and like I think a couple of weeks later, something like that, me and my husband jump in the car. We're going down there, and actually we took a friend of ours with us. It was her and her husband, and so we drove down there, and we drove to the address. And I remember that where the subdivision was, it was like one way in, one way out. And I was like, okay, so I'll sit in the back seat, that way, he doesn't see, because the biggest thing is I don't want him to see me and then, like he did all the other times in Georgia, and run. And this time, move again, and I don't know where he's at after that. More investigating and things. So I remember going down into the subdivision, and we followed GPS around to the address, and his house was right across the street from one of the stop signs. And the way we confirmed it is we didn't see anybody in there outside the house, but the way we confirmed it was there was a work truck outside the house with his father's last name on it, and it was like some kind of construction business or something. And I was like, well, you know what, that's further proof. Let's go call the police. So we drove back out of the subdivision to the store that was outside by the entrance, and called the police down there in Bay County. Police did show up, and I explained everything to them, and they were like, well, there ain't much we can do. It's a court order that needs, we need to have a court order and all this kind of stuff. And he said, well, the only thing we can do here is do a welfare check and make sure he's okay. And I told him no, because he knew that I did the last welfare check in Georgia, because my ex-husband went, a few weeks later and told him I was looking for him. And I feared, again, that if they did another welfare check, he would know that I know that that's where he was at. So, again, whole nother state, nothing could be done. So, come back home, back to Alabama, and we saved up some money, and I contacted a lawyer in Bay County, and I explained to him, once again, everything from day one, 2012, what had happened, and everything. I was like, I can get all the paperwork to back up everything. And I remember I did, and I sent everything to him. And the lawyer's like, okay, yes, I'm going to take your case. This is an outright crime, what he did. And he said, what I'm gonna do is, he said he was gonna do type up all the paperwork and everything, and for me to get emergency temporary custody until we go to court. And then he's like, well, this kind of could be considered kidnapping, but let's just wait on that. I said, you know what, I'm not, at this point, I just want my son. That's all I want. He said, okay, so I'm gonna send it over to the judge. And I know this judge, it's pretty clear, you know, what's going on here, and we're gonna get your son back. Okay. So meanwhile, here in Alabama, we have a spare bedroom, and it had, I think it was our computer room. I go and I buy a bed. I buy a bed. I clean the room out and I fix it up, and I was like, okay, my son is coming home. My son is coming home. I can't wait. And I remember I bought these brand new these brand new comforters and sheets and all, and I made his bed up and everything. And I went to the Bible bookstore that I love, and I bought this little teddy bear and a couple other little cutesy stuff. And I also had some of his old toys, and one of the things was Mater from Cars, and it was a little stuffy, and I put it on the bed, and I was like, okay, this is his room. Then about a week and a half or so goes by, and the lawyer calls me up, and he says, well, the judge I sent it to wanted to sign it, that, you know, he agreed that this was, you know, that what my son's father did was wrong, and that I should have custody of him. And I was like, okay. But for some reason, that judge didn't sign it, wanted to sign it, but didn't sign it, but sent it over to another judge to you know, let them look over it. And once that judge passed it, that judge, I don't know, but I guess that it was no longer in that judge's hands. So the second judge denied it. They denied it. And so then the lawyer just tells me, well, look, there's nothing else I can do. I mean, there's nothing I can do. I was like, okay, well, here again, I'm stuck. So I was left with nothing. So I kind of, you know, kept that address in mind, you know, and everything. And it's hard for me to go down there in the same town that, it's a vacation spot, but it's not. It's hard for me to go down to that town because I'm afraid that, you know, if I run into them, you know, there's nothing I can do. I mean, I would do anything for my kid, but at the same time, he's been hurt and scarred enough. I want to do this the right way. And I've been trying to do this the right way. And so again, I've kind of closed off, and, you know, and some people has asked me, well, you know, that's a sign you're giving up? No, it's not. See, my thing is I have God on my side, and God says be patient and wait. And it's hard to wait, you know, especially in a situation like this. It's hard to wait, especially you've waited this long. But God has plans, and he has plans for, you know, that all good is going to come out of this. And I have to sit back and wait. And that's why I just started helping other people and advocating for them. It's not that I forgot about my son, because I absolutely didn't. It's that's my calling, is to help others. And in the meantime, while I'm helping others, you know, I still think of my son, and I still pray about my son, and I pray for his father. And then God is working behind the scenes. But then, fast forward to, actually this was recently. This was a few nights ago. It was funny because I was scrolling through TikTok, and people were talking about, they were trying to find their old MySpace pages. So I thought it would be funny let's see if I could. So I started putting my name in and all. Well, then I got to thinking, I was like, you know, what if I put my son's name in? Just randomly put my son's name in. I don't know, you know, maybe something would pop up. Well, it did. Apparently, August 31st of this year, 2025, a missing persons was filed on my son by his dad. Thank God that they did find him and he's, he was safe. But law enforcement went out and put this bolo out, and you had all these missing persons Facebook pages, like, just posting it. I seen the picture they had on there. My son was a lot older and all, and I was so upset. I mean, I was scared first, because I was like, okay, maybe my son is starting to ask questions. And I was like, okay, he tried to run away to find me, and I'm glad he's safe and all. But I was also upset at the fact that since 2012, I have been trying to get law enforcement to wake up and help me get my son back since 2012. And nothing. Hired a lawyer and everything, nothing. But the person that's in the wrong calls them up and says, hey, my son's missing. And law enforcement jumps. I don't understand it. I may never understand it, but like I said, God has a plan for all this. And in the meantime, I'm not giving up. In the meantime, I'm going to try to help as many people as I can, with their situations and things and all. But it's, the judicial system is so screwed up. And it hurt, like, it hurts. It's hurting people. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know at this point, but just to keep praying and keep doing what I'm doing. And it's not, and I want to address another thing too, that I heard, well, why don't you just go hire another lawyer? Well, one, how lawyers are expensive, and for two, it doesn't matter if a lawyer was to reach out to me today and say, hey, I want to take your case, and I know we can do this. I've heard the same song and dance since 2012, from law enforcement to investigators to lawyers to everybody. I have a hard time trusting that. I have a hard time trusting that. I want to believe in our judicial system. I want to believe in law enforcement. I want to believe that they can do the right thing. I want to believe our court systems can do the right thing, but you haven't shown anything. All the TikTok stories that I've seen and all, you haven't really, been in the, doing the right things. You've got all these people that are just angry and upset, and you see that there's no problem in your actions. So I'm just gonna sit back and I'm gonna stay silent. And as far as if he ever sees these videos, okay, because I can back up my facts. I can back up everything. I can back up the fact that you're a convicted felon. I have no criminal record. I can back up the fact that you are a manipulative person, and most of the crimes that you committed was, I'm not even going to go into that, but you are hurting my son and everybody else that loves him and is close to him. You're hurting him. But it's okay, because God's going to intervene. He's already starting to, but God's going to intervene, and you're not going to win this. So all I can ask is just for prayers. That's all I want. That's all I need. And I remain hopeful and faithful to God that He's going to bring my son home one day. Y'all have a blessed day.